So start with the setup, the world that's going to change, set up the character that's going to change. Okay. This is the separation from the world that we're in, right? So we got to separate from the Shire, separate from our comfort zone, separate from the person we were before we went on the journey. We're called to do so. We're called into the other world, called into growth, called into transformation. And this is a calling, a separation from home. So we're going to now look at a few key beats, key steps in this journey. We start with the... Okay, so we start with the status quo. We set up, this is not, so this act one, all of act one is on the left. Introduce, separate, call from home, right? All of act one. But now let's look at the key beats. When it's broken up into beats, and these are kind of looser, do all these things that act one needs to do. But here's how it tends to go. We tend to set up the normal world, set up the status quo. The opening sequence is either an opening, action sequence, but normally we're looking also for some type of introduction to what the world is now. What is normal? What is the status quo? Set it up so that we can change it and show us the problem. So if you set up the status quo with the problem embedded, we get it. We're like, you don't even have to have the inciting incident. We know what needs to happen because we see the problem in the world. We see this character has to grow. Then there's going to be some type of inciting incident, call to adventure, increased awareness, some type of disruption, this big disruption event that's going to shake us loose from the status quo and bring us into contemplation of, should I go on this journey? Should I not go on this journey? And this is the refusal of the call, some different language for it, the denial of the incident, refusal of the call, resistance to change, repression. This is when we're repressing what we've learned. We're repressing this call to adventure. No, I didn't hear that kind of thing. And this is when we're dealing with our fear. And the fear we have about going on the journey is an expression of our insecurities. Our refusal of the call is an expression of our insecurity often. But when we show a character afraid to go, it shows the audience is now realizing how scary this journey is. The stakes are expressed by the fear. But then we're going to have to go. We're going to have to decide to go, accept the journey. So this is going to either be done with some type of synchronicity or a sign. Okay, some divine sign or some overcoming, some point of no return. Maybe our world's blown up behind us and we have to go. Or maybe we meet some type of supernatural mentor or receive some aid. It's Athena is where we get the word mentor. She was the mentor for Telemachus and the Odyssey. Or we meet Gandalf, or we meet Morpheus, or we meet Obi-Wan. We meet somebody who, or Hagrid. We meet somebody who gives us a sense of confidence that we can do it. So we're going to go from being in the status quo, being disrupted from the status quo, and feeling called to go, but then having the sense of resistance and refusal. I don't know about that, but then we got to decide we're going to go. We got to have this overcoming. And that's going to often have some, we get some magic arrows, magic shoes, lightsaber, and meet a mentor, or the world's blown up behind us and we got to go. And then we're going to cross the threshold. And this is when we go down the rabbit hole, through the wardrobe, through the looking glass, into the phone, down the, into the land of the dead. It doesn't, whatever it is, we're crossing. And this crossing is exciting. We'll show you some examples of that. So it's some of our favorite times in many stories. And this crossing of the threshold is going to be when we are kind of like, whether or not we like it, we want to or not, we are now committed to this journey. And this is what Sid Field calls Act 1, and it takes us into Act 2. And we'll come to Act 2 next week. So let's talk about the first 10 minutes of a story. Who's the story about? Is this the one? It'll tell us, in the first 10 minutes, we need to know who is this story about? What is the dramatic situation? What is the dramatic premise? What is the dramatic question? And so we're setting up the arch plot in the first 10 minutes. And make sure you guys do your reading. There's a lot more detail on this. And what are the circumstances surrounding the action, the relationships of the characters, the landscape, and the world? This is all stuff you need to accomplish in the first 10 minutes. And we've watched this clip many times, so I'm not going to use this clip again, but you're going to see, you'll see that all this is set up in the first several minutes, first few minutes. We see, this is the story
at Lucas.
Hi, this is about my husband.
Right, so we're going to see that this is,
well,
we're going to learn, we're going to see in the first few minutes, the opening minutes, that this is about Jack, and that the situation is that he's a jerk, and he needs to not be a jerk, and that he is a radio disc jockey, that he is a big persona, an on-screen persona, so he's got a huge persona to crack, and he's going to have to learn to be a more complete person. This is immediately obvious in the first few minutes. So at the beginning, we're going to introduce the world, the characters, the theme, and the arcs plot. Right, all again. We're going to set up the world, the arcs, the character arcs, the thematic arcs, and the arcs plot. So in the first 10 minutes, we're going to say, who is the story about? What is the, oops. Sorry, go back. Oops. There we go. Who is the story about? What is the dramatic situation, the dramatic premise, the dramatic question, the arts plot? What are the circumstances surrounding the action, the relationship of the characters, the landscape of the world? Who are the world? What is the world? What are the characters? What are the themes? And what's the big plot going to be? You're going to set up all these plots and arcs. Okay, and we can see Eden as a perfect example. We see Eden as the beginning of the whole big Bible. It's the beginning of the Bible, for whether it's you're a Jew, Christian, or Muslim. This is the beginning. Or Yazidi. This is the story of the beginning. And in the beginning, we set up Eden. We set up the world. We introduce the characters. This is humanity. We show the fall, and we set up the need for redemption. In the first 10 minutes, immediately we know who the story is about. We know that the whole thing is setting up the return to paradise and reunion with God. We see the circumstances that this is the story of the innocent first humans in the center of creation with the Creator. We see the landscape of the world. We're setting up the wasteland that needs redeemed, the sin, the original sin, the key characters, humanity. This is the setup for the whole big old narrative, Jewish, Christian, Muslim. So how about this? We're going to set up, introduce separation. Oh, you know what? I think that we did in Act 1, in Unit 1, I think we spent some time talking about the Oedipus complex and separation itself. So I hope you guys will go back to that. So here we see in Hunger Games, let's watch the clip and see if all these things happen. Separation from home, separation from old self, separation from common sense. Is there going to be separation from body? Oh, of course, this is another stuff. This is from what happens in Eden. We're going to set up the home, world of her, common norms, the known.
Happy Hunger Games, and may the odds be ever in your favor.
You have 3 minutes.
I don't have much time. Grim, listen. You're gonna be okay. Don't take any extra food from them. It isn't worth putting your name in more times. Okay, listen, Grim. Gail will bring you game. You can sell cheese from your goat.
Just try to win. Maybe you can.
Maybe I can. I am smart, you know.
You can hunt
Exactly.
to protect you.
That's her lightsaber in some ways. Special aid. So you see the sense of separation and the sadness of her separation
tune
from
out
home,
again.
separation from her
No, you can't.
mother.
Not like when Dad died. I won't be there
Separation from
anymore.
her
You're all she
sister.
has. No matter what you feel, you have to be there for her. Do you understand? Don't cry. Don't. Graham, it's okay. Graham, it's okay. So, Graham, no! I promise, Graham.
This is the door closed. That's reinforcing the poetry of separation.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
I am.
Listen to me. You're stronger than they are. You are. Get to a bow.
I may not have.
Well, if you show them how good you are, they just want a good show. That's all they want. If they don't have a bow, then you make one, okay? You know how to hunt.
Animals.
It's no different, Candace.
There's 24 of us, Gail. Only one comes out.
Yeah. And it's gonna be you. Okay,
Take care of them, Gail. Whatever you do, don't let them starve.
let's go. I'll see you soon, okay?
You two are in for a treat. Crystal chandeliers, platinum doorknobs, and it flies. We'll be at the capital for 60 days. Now, before you do anything else, make sure to lock out.
See all this separation from home, from her comfort zone, from her happy place, even though it's a place that is, even though it's a comfort zone, a happy place, it's still a wasteland. So she's being separated from her normal wasteland, but it's also her place of happiness and her relationship with her sister. This is another really powerful example. And this is, of course, the story of Magneto and his separation from his mother. And so you see the key here is that when we're separated from our civilization, from our normal world, it's an extension of a separation from home, which is an extension of a separation from the mother. So what is the original separation of our whole life is when we're born and the umbilical cord is cut. So when it comes to the feeling of existential isolation and separation from God, nature, lover, whatever, the feeling of separation, which is the foundational problem of most religious, or of a lot of religious narratives, is that we feel separate from God. So that you can go on these journeys to feel one with God or the universe or a lover or whatever it is, but at least not to feel separated and estranged. But that first original feeling of estrangement, that first trauma of establishing the separation that we are, is the cutting of the umbilical cord, is birth itself, separation from the mother. And so the Oedipus complex from Freud, leaving all this, incest stuff aside, what it's really about at the existential level, the desire to return to the mother is actually a regression, a desire to go back to the experience of non-separation. Before I felt estranged from the world, I want to go back. So don't separate me from mom. Don't separate me from the Shire. Don't separate me from my hole in the ground. Don't separate me from my civilization, my world, that all, my sister, whatever it is, my mother. This is Magneto. We're seeing the trauma of separation, but it's also separation from our old self. So when we see our characters leave their normal world, it's with the same Oedipal experience of resisting separation, resisting the feeling of being alone and estranged out there, and going to have to do it on your own. But here's the thing, is that to go backwards, go back to mom, to go back home, is an Oedipal turn, a backwards turn. We'll have to set out and find a new source of union, a new holy grail, or a new spark of fire in the belly of the whale, or, whatever it is, some new source, a new lover, a new source of our connection. And that connection, we may need to find it in ourselves as well, right? First and foremost, to feel whole through ourselves, not through another person or through an outer object. But normally the quest, the quest for some person or some object or something, is a poetic expression of a journey for ourselves, a journey for that inner experience of completion. We're looking for that thing out there that will make us feel complete, that person that will make us feel complete. But what we're really trying to do is activate that part of ourselves that's missing and we're estranged from, that we don't feel complete without. Okay, so Act 1, separation. Eden, we talked about separation from Eden. We can please read all those, check it out, lots of separation. Okay, so now we're moving into, the Act 1, the inciting incident, shadow disruption, increased awareness, call to adventure. So the inciting incident is that thing that disrupts. Let's go on to this page, actually. Here we go. The inciting incident, the character begins in a static state. We got to break them out of it. We got to disrupt it. This event radically upsets the balance of the protagonist. This is Marshall Gantz, looking at this more in collective narratives or business narratives. He says, you got to have a disequilibrium event. So this is a radical disequilibrium event, an inciting incident, a primary cause for the story, a first domino, a first spark. This is an obligatory, this implies the obligatory scene, which you should read about. And the inciting incident will also function as a hook, this grabbing thing. And if you go back and you start telling a story of your life, you're going to say, well, it all began when. That's the inciting incident. And the inciting incident functions as some type of disruption of the status quo. So this is coming from the shadow, from something that we're not looking at. This disrupting, this breaking the seal of the Shire, that's scratching into the door, that's, coming out of the bowl. This is a disruption event. And it's going to disrupt our persona and our ego, our delusional sense of who we are and what we are, our limited version of ourselves. And it's going to call us into a greater depth of ourselves. And this is not uncommon for a midlife crisis, right? We've You know, we become adults, we've done the things we think we're supposed to do, and we're still not happy. You know, so now what? This is one thing Jung focused on. You know, Freud was focused on even becoming a mature adult, but Jung is looking at like, well, why are so many people having these crises when they've done all the things that society's asked of them? Because they've left so much of themselves out. And then they go on this journey to try and what he calls individuation, to integrate what they've left out in their initial ascent. And so they'll go down again and reintegrate and integrate more. Vogler calls this increased awareness. This disruption event is going to give us some sort of new awareness, something that we didn't know. Luke's call is increased awareness. Neo's call is increased awareness, right? You now know what you didn't know before. So Campbell writes, that which has to be faced and is somehow profoundly familiar to the unconscious, though unknown, surprising, and even frightening to the conscious personality, makes itself known. And what formerly was meaningful may become strangely emptied of value. And this increased awareness, this call, we might even think of as a mating scent or a mating call. This is some new thing we can't ignore. There's this call that we're now aware of, this mating display. And then the call to adventure itself.
Perfect. This ought to make me
sure.
stand out.
Great, mating call. Okay, so now, but there's a difference between the incident and the invitation. So there may be on one level, like a disruption event, but on another, some actual direct, hey, come with me to Alderaan. Hey, leave the Matrix. Hey, you know, don't read this book, you know, that kind of thing. Here's a favorite example here. Oh gosh, no, this one's super long. This is the call to adventure.
That's usually when the ground falls out from underneath your feet.
You could be more right than you know.
Yes?
We've hit a snag. Our project leader has vanished, along with all his research. We received a cable from his colleague, Dr. Schneider, who has no idea of his whereabouts or what's become of him. I want you to pick up the trail where he left off. Find the man, and you will find the Grail.
See, there's that call. Come on, let's do the journey, a direct call. So we have an inciting incident, call to adventure, the shadow disruption, and increased awareness. And we could look at it in Hunger Games, but we're going to run short on time. The inciting incident, of course, is she's picked, and she feels it as a call. Well, no, I'm not going to let my sister do it. I'm going to do it. So she feels the disruption event is experienced as a call. And then it's going to be this, well, let's watch this part.
Even though you're here and even though it's just for a little while, you get to enjoy.
That's very loud. We'll watch. I'll share these PowerPoints with you. Hopefully you guys can watch some of these. One of my favorite examples, NeverEnding Story. We're going to watch this a good bit throughout this lecture, this series of lectures. The call to adventure, shadow disruption, increased awareness. Let's watch it all in this moment.
I know books. I have 186 of them at home.
Ah, comic books.
No, I've read Treasure Island, The Last of the Mohicans, Wizard of Oz, Lord of the Rings, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Tarzan.
Who are you running away from?
Just the kids from school.
Why?
They want to throw me in the garbage.
Why don't you give them a good punch in the nose?
I don't know. What's that book about?
Oh, this is something special.
Well, what is it?
Look, your books are safe. By reading them, you get to become Tarzan or Robinson Crusoe.
But that's what I like about him.
Ah, but afterwards you get to be a little boy again.
What do you mean?
Listen. Have you ever been Captain Nemo, trapped inside your submarine while the giant squid is attacking you?
Yes,
Weren't you afraid you couldn't escape?
but it's only a story.
That's what I'm talking about. The ones you read are safe.
And that one isn't?
Don't worry about
But you just said it was...
Hilarious call. Don't read this
it.
book.
Forget about it.
Forget about it.
This book is not for you.
See, this is the tyrant repressing, oppressing, saying, no, you cannot have this vitality. But this is just a setup. The tyrant repressing the vitality is itself a call for you to challenge that. Wait, I can't read this book where all this cool, amazing stuff is. I can't go to this other world where all this cool stuff is and I can grow. Hell with that, I'm going to go. He experiences it as a call. The one thing thou shouldn't do, right? Don't open that fruit. Don't get that knowledge. No, not that knowledge. But his awareness was increased. He knew there was knowledge there. He could not want it. He knew there was vitality. He could not want it. Good kid, though. So we're not going to be able to watch all these examples. Tons of good examples. V for Vendetta, one of my favorites. One thing that's nice is you see this kind of parallel track where the inciting incident for Evie, the character, is when she is going to be, you know, attacked by these fingermen. So she's taken out of her normal reality by these fingermen, and her whole life is about to change. And now she meets V. V is now, this is her disruption event. She meets her shadow character, who is also a shadow character to the whole society that is repressive, a dystopian story. And she's going to now watch as he blows up the Old Bailey, a terrorist attack. And by doing this, this is the inciting incident for the whole culture. So you see this kind of you see her inciting incident as a character, but then you also see it mixed into the scene where you see the inciting incident for the world. So let me show you that quickly, though. Or maybe these clips need some TLC, so maybe not. Here. Wait for the program to respond. These PowerPoints are gargantuan, 15 gigabytes, like 20 movies loaded into them. It's pretty intense. So sometimes it's just, we're going to see, we're going to have some spinning wheels here. Okay, let's come back. Well, no shit. Let's just make this one nice video. Let's see how quickly we can get this open. There we go. So back to. Okay, so okay. Peter Pan, these are just, I'll share these slides. It'll take a while for them to upload, but I'll share them in time for your class sessions. But check these out: Inciting Incident, Call to Adventure, Shadow Disruption, all these different movies. Matrix is a great example. Batman's a great example. Myths, Buddha, Eden Call, Percival's Call, Persephone's Call. We can go on and on and on. This would take, we don't have time. But we go from the call to adventure to the refusal of the call. We talked about this. This is the resistance, the fear of change, resistance to change, and the recognition of the high stakes. Christ is resisting the call. The Buddha's father refuses the Buddha's departure. Percival's mother refuses his departure. Sosruko's mother refuses his departure. Demeter's mother is limiting, and Persephone. And Noah, of course, is like, why me, God? This is recurring. Refusal. And of course, the refusal of the call in Harry Potter, the call to adventure is, of course, these, owls coming with the actual call to adventure, an actual letter to Hogwarts. And the refusal of the call, of course, we see. So why don't we watch this scene? This is probably one of the best scenes for watching the call to adventure. Very memorable one.
Oh, Marge is ill at a funny well.
Look, I was got a letter! Give it back, it's mine!
Charles, I'll be writing to you. Letterbox.
Lovely day at the office, dear.
So look at this repression. This is just like Luke's uncle. Or this is just like Cinderella's fairy godmother, or Cinderella's wicked mother, wicked stepmother, right?
Fine day, Sunday. In my opinion, best day of the week.
Oppression,
Why is
repression.
that
And notice
different?
they're trying to keep it out of the house.
Because there's no post on Sundays.
Right you are, Harry. No post on Sunday.
Love that actor.
No blasted letters today. No, sir. Not one single bloody letter.
Look, he's always looking out. He wants it. He wants to grow. Sometimes the oppression is externalized in the form of an evil uncle.
No, sir.
But it's still one psyche. It's his psyche. This is just the voice in his head doing this. This is the voice of the character's head. Or the voice of the story's head that does this. The patriarch, the tyrant. But you can't repress it forever. The increased awareness is unavoidable. So we're gonna have to have some kind of supernatural aid, some kind of overcoming, right? We've talked about this, the magical object, the friend, the guide, or maybe there'll be a point of no return, something be destroyed behind you, or there'll be some synchronicity or sign.
What should I do? Give me a signal. I need your guidance, Lord. Please send me a sign. Oh, what's this Joker doing now?
Joker, right? This is the trickster. This is the trickster Gandalf, the disruptor.
Okay. All right, I'll try it your way. All right, Lord, I need a miracle. I'm desperate. I need your help, Lord. Please reach into my life. What the? Yeah.
Reach into my life, disrupt my normal, come from the other world. Crash, great inciting incident. Perfect, standard, crash. Cracking the shell, changing the reality immediately. But notice he kept refusing the signs, right? And it's because of all the refusals, it's because of all the repression that he needed the disruption.
Smite me, almighty smiter! You're the one who should be fired! The only one around here not doing his job is you! Answer me!
Love it. Okay. Let's see. There we go. Okay. So we talked about that's a synchronicity. A synchronicity is when something that's relevant to the narrative of your life happens in your life in a way that's statistically rare. It's not to say that this is impossible, but this is like 1 in 1,000. Are you going to say, God, show me a sign, and then a truck's going to show up with a bunch of signs, right? Here's another favorite example of a hilarious kind of joke of a synchronicity.
Your life is spinning out of control. Seems the whole world is out to get you. Everything is wrong, nothing seems right. There's a sinking feeling inside.
See, the song is just how he feels. How could it be that a song just happens to align with how he feels? That's a synchronicity. And it feels like a sign.
Cause you try, but you can't let go. It's when you're down that you gotta get up. Don't let them walk all over your face. Stand up for yourself and make everything right again. Even if some guy's trying to blackmail you and your girlfriend thinks you suck, it's up to you to let them know that it was all just part of some rich guy's evil plan. Look out ahead, there's a truck changing lanes. You've got some yellow crumbs on your upper lip, and those warts on your dick aren't gonna go away unless you start using topical cream every day.
Fun movie. So you see that, you know, this is this idea that this is just a joke, that something random could happen, but is so meaningful to you, meaningful to your story. And we often feel or experience these synchronicities as signs, as calls to do something different. Notice he turns his car around. So we're running low on time today, but still, I think we should watch probably the most famous example of a synchronicity.
Jung is in a therapy session with this woman. She's just like really rational and rigid in thought. And she's having a lot of anxiety. And she's telling him about this dream she has of someone handing her a really expensive piece of jewelry. And the piece of jewelry is a golden scarab, a golden beetle. And at the same time, she is talking to him about the golden beetle. An actual beetle flies against the window, and Carl Jung picks it up and hands her the beetle. He said, "Here's your scarab." And that moment was so profound that it broke the cycle of her anxiety, which was based on her rigidity of thought. this is Young trying to grasp this idea of two things that are not related. And what we're saying is we're toying with the idea that there is meaning behind that. And
so she was stuck and she was trapped and locked away her vitality and her overly rigid modality, her overly rigid way of thinking. This is just like a character at the beginning of a story. Something is locked away. There's a lack of growth. And now this synchronicity, this disruption event is going to say, hey, the world isn't as simple as you think it is. This kind of thing can happen. And so this synchronicity, often the call to adventure or the inciting incident is a synchronicity. A 1 in a million meteorite lands at your feet. Well, I guess I'm the person to do something, right? Often the disruption event is a synchronicity. A 1 in a million kind of thing. And if you'd like to know more about synchronicities, I sure hope you'll dig into it. There's a lot more about it in the reading.
you know,